up, guys? It's C-Jax back with another video, and I just got back from watching Blue Beetle, and it was absolutely mid at best. A borderline bad superhero movie that is generic, it's cliche, and it's Shazam 2 2.0. They're the same movie. It's all hinging upon family and on these cliche generic plot lines and story threads. It's an embarrassment of a movie. It's going to flop at the box office just like Shazam 2 did and just like The Flash did. Even though I love The Flash and it's one of my favorite superhero movies ever, DC right now is in shambles. And it's going to keep getting worse if you keep making superhero movies like Blue Beetle. It's the same. We've seen this movie a million times, it feels like, bro. A generic villain has the same powers as the hero, fights against him at the end. The comedy's mismatched. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's horrible. The acting feels corny. You can tell this movie was made for HBO Max because it originally was. It was supposed to go to HBO Max, and now it's in theaters. And they should have kept it on Max because goodness gracious. I don't even want to really review this movie, but I just want to rant about it. So let's just talk about Blue Beetle, bro. Wow, this was bad. Starting off with the story, it is boring and basic and generic as heck, dog. The moral of the story, this is what you need to know. Blue Beetle learns his purpose, which he doesn't say what it is, but he learns his purpose, and then he learns to be a hero. The same thing that happens in 90% of the rest of superhero movies that we've ever seen. It's boring, it's basic, it's cliche. And I'm not saying this movie needed to redo the genre or reinvent the genre, but you have to do something new, something innovative that we haven't seen before, or else it's just going to blend in with all the other superhero mediocrity, bro. And the arc is not going to be that special. His story arc is not special. Jaime Reyes does not feel special. He has moments of relatability, but they're not diving into that. They're too busy telling jokes, which the humor in this movie is very hit or miss, and I mean very hit or miss. Sometimes it's really funny, or it's really garbage. The scene where he's talking to Jenny Core on the bed, and then he walks up with his shirt, that was pretty funny. And some of the scenes with Uncle Rudy were great. But you can't do that stuff at the expense of a character arc being completely just taken away from the movie. Jaime has no depth to his character arc, and it's a problem. None of the characters in this movie have any depth to their storytelling or their story arc. And that's one of the biggest issues that I have with this movie. And speaking of the characters, I first off got to say Jenny Cord in this movie, played by Bruna. I forget her last name, but she's very famous. She did a great job in this movie. The emotion she brought and the whole thing with her loneliness growing up, building into who she is today, I think that was a really nice touch. And they should have built more upon her relationship with Jaime, but they didn't because of all the other characters that are in this movie, including the villains that are garbage. We'll get to that in a second. The family dynamic in this movie and all of these characters, there are moments where there's emotion, and it's, there's very funny moments like with Uncle Rudy, played by George Lopez in this movie, and there's a couple other cool scenes as well where they're bonding. But overall, this family dynamic is not special. We have seen better than this in Shazam 1 and in Shazam 2. The dynamic between Billy and Freddy is better than the dynamic between any two family members in this movie, including Jaime Reyes as Blue Beetle, bro. It's that simple. And so I don't know why that's being so overrated. And at times, the family dynamic and all the family, they say it a billion times, not only does it get boring and repetitive, but on top of that, it takes away from depth that could be added onto Jaime Reyes' arc as Blue Beetle. And even onto Jenny Cord's arc as well. So I don't understand that. And even onto the villains. They could have added way more depth to the villains because the villains in this movie were horrendous. And I'm talking garbage villains. They have no motives. They have no backstory. They're the classic, oh, we're a rich business. We need to take the hero's powers, make it our own, and then fight against them. Same thing. The villain at the end of the movie, forget his name, but he basically has Blue Beetle's powers and he's fighting against them in a similar suit. It's the same thing. The same thing over and over again, bro. It's the most basic storytelling you can possibly get. And at the end of the movie, the main dude villain, he randomly goes from saying, oh yeah, your family is what makes you weak, Blue Beetle, to now being stronger because of his family. What? Where did that change come in? Because of one flashback scene, or because Jaime chose not to kill him, so now he wants to be a good guy now? Why? It doesn't make any sense. It's very sad how they give no backstory or no depth to multiple different characters in this film, but they'll give you a bunch of humor scenes over and over and over again and bash the family morals and the family storyline all over your head over and over again, bro. But they won't actually develop the storytelling that should be getting developed. It's very, very sad. And along with the paper-thin storytelling, a couple more issues I have, or something I just mentioned, I should say, is the fact that in this movie, the things that do work at times, like Jenny Core's little backstory with her her loneliness. You know, the little scene they put at the end, like the backstory for the main villain guy, that little 1-2 minute flashback scene, whatever that was. And on top of that, different moments where Jaime's having an emotional scene with his family members. Those good moments happen, but they don't get expanded upon. They just get introduced, and you're supposed to just sit there, enjoy that one scene, and then never get it talked about again. Like Jaime and George Lopez's character, Uncle Rudy, they'll have one good scene at a rooftop, right? And then you'll never see that type of dynamic or that type of emotion ever seen again between those two characters. And as the relationship with his mom is basically non-existent, the Nana girl, whoever, Nana, and, you know, the daughter of the family, you know, Jaime Reyes' sister, they have a great scene, an amazing scene together where they're talking about emotion and sadness and pain, but then all that stuff just kind of gets played off. And you don't ever think about it until the end where they say, okay, we can all cry now. If they would have leaned more into those aspects of the movie, the more sadder tones and the stuff that actually made you feel something and was pretty well written, they probably would have had a way better movie. There are a couple emotional moments, or 1 or 2 moments, I should say, that do stand and they let you sit in that emotion. But for the most part, you don't really get to feel it because it's a very lighthearted movie in tone and the jokes. And I understand the superhero genre is mostly jokes now. I get that. But like The Flash did, you have to balance the humor with the emotional aspects of the movie, and you have to do it dang near perfectly in order for us to feel both sides. You can't just go full on humor for 70% and then give us a couple emotional scenes and expect it to be sad. It's not going to be that sad, unfortunately. At least that's how I felt when I was watching it. And then my last gripe that I will say is that I really just didn't like the cheap and corny feel to this film. When it comes to the jokes, when it comes to the scenery, some of the green screen shots, the CGI, you could just tell it was meant for HBO Max. It's a low budget movie. I think it has a budget of like 120 million or maybe 90 million, something like that. It's not a high budget movie, and I understand that's fine. It was meant to go to a streaming service, but if you're going to release it in theaters, bro, you can't make it look too corny at certain times. I'm sorry, man. There's no excuse. It's Warner Bros. They're billionaires. They are billions of dollars in debt too. But anyways, it should look better. And as for the things that I did like, there's not much, but Bruno Marquezine, who plays Jenny Cord in this film, I got her name this time. I don't know if I said it right, but whatever. She was really good in this movie. She could have been even better, but what they do with her loneliness and playing that into who she is, the scene she has with Jaime, all that stuff I thought was honestly pretty solid. Speaking of Jaime, Zolomar Dueno, who plays him in this movie, he did a pretty solid job. I mean, he had some charm and some relatability in there, which is nice. There's a couple good scenes in this film that I can remember. The scene with him and his dad at the end is nice, and I think the scene with him and Uncle Rudy, obviously the scene with him and Jenny. And also the scene with the sister in this film and Nana, that was also a really good scene. There's a couple good moments, couple good emotional beats, but overall, I was just extremely disappointed with this movie. And that leads me to talk about where is DC heading going forward. You know, as some of you may know, we have Aquaman coming out at the end of this year, Aquaman 2. I'm not too excited for that, but I'm also not hyped. Like, I'm kind of curious to see how that is. I'm kind of interested in it, so that's that. James Gunn's on fire on Twitter again because, you know, he's said comments about wanting a younger Superman months ago, and now all of a sudden he just wants a Superman who's in the early stages. So he got rid of Henry Cavill, things of that nature. But it's the same thing with Warner Bros. And James Gunn. They're going to tell you a report, then they're going to mislead you and tell you something else, then you'll get something else. Gal Gadot had a Wonder Woman 3 announced, she said, and now all of a sudden nobody ever said that. Then we're not sure if that even is true or not. Like, DC is a mess, and all the media surrounding Warner Bros. And DC has been negative, and it should be, honestly, because the company didn't do their jobs. They broke the fans' hearts on multiple occasions, and here we are now getting Blue Beetle. And I think Blue Beetle is the first character in the DCU, according to James Gunn. And if this is the first character or the first movie, whatever, this was not good. It just wasn't. I'm sorry. There's nothing new or inventive about the character of Jaime Reyes, and I just personally am not too attached to the character. He's cool. He's not bad. Don't get me wrong, but he's definitely not good enough for me to be that excited like I was for Cavill Superman or Batfleck or whoever the heck they had in there, man. So, yeah. Movie was incredibly disappointing. It's basically Shazam 2, but slightly worse. That's all I have to say about this movie. I would give it a 5 out of 10, probably, maybe a 5.5 because of a couple nice scenes. But overall, this is like a D tier, F tier movie. Not that good, and I probably will never watch it again. But overall, that's going to be my review for Blue Beetle. I'm going to be going off to college next week, so this is going to be my last video in this setup for probably a little while. However, I thank you guys so much for your support that you've given me over the last year and a half that I've been making these YouTube videos, and the recent support on some of the edits I've been doing. I really do appreciate it. And if you guys have seen Blue Beetle in theaters or wherever the heck you watched it, probably pirated it, some of people did, I don't know. But if you've seen it, let me me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. And thank you guys for your support once again. And I hope you all have a phenomenal day. Peace out.